Welcome to the Bread and Thorns podcast.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Bread and Thorns podcast, a bi-weekly podcast where we sit down and discuss literature, art, media, and all the other stuff that we really like and how they influence the projects we're working on. I'm Isaac.
And I'm Rosemary.
And today we're going to discuss...
Palm Springs! Woo!
Yay. As you guys can tell, I'm not too enthusiastic about this movie. For those who don't know, Palm Springs is a movie.
About a time loop.
Not just a city in
great.
California. Although I hear that city is pretty great. Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't think I've ever been.
It has a lot of nice houses that all need really, really,
where
really
is Palm
expensive
Springs
air
even
conditioning. Near the border of California and Arizona, I
so
think.
Neither of us know where Palm Springs is. Awesome.
I know I've driven through it and I've driven to it many times.
maybe I've
and I
driven
still don't
through it.
actually know where it specifically is.
So
it's
obviously
very hot.
We don't know. We're
It's
not
very
talking
warm and
about the
humid,
city.
like 90% of the time.
But the movie is set in the
In Palm
city,
Springs.
yeah. So that's where the whole idea is, or the whole movie is. I'm not that excited to discuss it, obviously. So, Rosemary, how was your week?
Woo! So, yeah, my week was actually pretty solid. I interviewed for a manager position, which is super amazing, and I'm really excited, even if it's just like the growth of being able to interview for the position and discuss different aspects of myself and my level of growth over the last few years with the music company that I've been working with. So it's been a really good week.
Yeah,
It's
you've been
fun.
actually kind of wanting to go towards that for a while now, right?
Yeah, I've wanted that for the last couple years, and so this is the first job that I've like applied for that I didn't actually need. It's something that I just really, really want, and so I was more nervous for this than
Really?
I think pretty much for almost any other job I've ever applied for.
You were more nervous for this, but you know everybody.
I know everybody.
Yeah.
I know that I'll do a wonderful job if I'm a manager, and I know that like out of the applicants that are there, like one or two of the other ones will be like really, really good too. So it's a good competition. It's a good set of people that I'm against. I trust this new lady who's been working with us, who's going to do the hiring for the job, and so I'm genuinely excited, and I think there's at least a solid chance that I will get chosen, but I also know I'm running up against some pretty good people, so we'll see what happens. But
Cool.
that is very cool.
Are you, now that the interview's over, you're not nervous anymore?
No. I think now I'm more excited to know who gets it rather than nervous. But I was actually like shaky after the interview. I don't get shaky. I don't like crying.
That's
I don't
really
like shaking. I absolutely abhor hysterics. I can be very dramatic when like
She
I
can be
don't
very,
need
very
to be.
dramatic.
But I normally avoid hysterics or panic or anything like that if I can help it, or even if that's going on outside I'll just kind of get really, really quiet, which is very abnormal for people who know me, for me to just go silent. So usually most people can tell when something's wrong because I'm just abnormally quiet. But anyway, so that was very odd afterwards, but it was really cool to be able to go through that. And then the rest of the week was, because I was on Tuesday, and so it was something where the rest of the week was really
When do
nice.
you know?
She wants to make a decision by the end of next week.
Okay.
So hopefully
End of next week. Okay, so the end of August, basically.
We also haven't really had a manager for like 2 months now. And even before that, the
right.
manager that was there wasn't really
Well, technically,
so.
you guys haven't had a manager for like 6 months, right?
Well, yeah, because with the
'Cause of the whole-
quarantine,
yeah,
it was
quarantine
like
thing.
because she was our manager furloughed herself like a few weeks before, like almost a month before we actually ended up doing that. And so, yeah, like the end of February, beginning of March, she was just like, you know what, guys, I'm just going to stay home. And it was like, all right, cool. So we were managing ourselves. And then, hey, you're closed for 3 months. And then we came back. And then she was there for like a week, maybe a week and a half. And then she was like, nah, guys, I'm good. And she left. And we're like, okay, cool. So it's just been like.
So maybe you guys don't need a manager.
We really don't. We can run without a manager really well. But it'd be really nice to be able to have that. Because at the moment, we're doing really well. But we're also, there's a state of like floating that's taking place, so it'd be nice to get rid of that, which I'll actually talk about that when we talk about the movie. But my week has been pretty good.
Oh, that has something to do with the movie.
Kind of.
So this has been a like your life experience is kind of like this movie?
Okay, so the way that I work is that I normally have pretty good intuition about things, and so I normally make really good first impressions, really accurate first impressions, and then sometimes I will kind of know things or sense things about a person that don't actually get confirmed until later. I do try to hold it lightly just in case I'm accidentally biasing myself. So I normally don't hold on to things super tightly, but I do. I'm like, okay, this, I got like a red flag over here about this. What do I do? And then later on, I'm like, oh, that's why. Like, so with those kind of things, it's something where on a more positive note, with like Palm Springs, when I first watched it, I knew that I really, really, really liked the movie. I then, after analyzing it with Isaac, couldn't figure out why. And so over the course of the last week, I have figured out why, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But before we get there, Isaac, how was your week?
My week was, I guess, pretty normal. I think the weeks are really starting to blend together.
This is tying in perfectly. Okay, please continue.
Oh, okay, awesome. I'm glad I'm helping you with this because I'm not going to be able to to say very much,
That's okay.
very many things about this movie. But yeah, I think my weeks are starting to really blend together because it's becoming. I'm a teacher, right? I'm a music teacher, and everything's gone online now. But of course, we want to work on our kind of separate projects with this podcast and with everything else. And so kind of learning to schedule myself and learning to set aside time for all these other different things was difficult at first when the quarantine kind of first started. And then as the months have gone on, it's become easier and easier and easier to the point where it's just kind of flowing. So it's now back to the weeks are kind of going on as if we didn't have the quarantine in a sense, which I think is great. It's really become more the fact that kind of my schedule has been more routine now instead of just, oh, I have to do this. Oh, now I have to go teach. Oh no, now I have to go back to this, and I didn't have it really scheduled in my mind and everything. So things are going smoother. It's a good thing, I think, that things are picking up in my time. Okay. But that's about it. I don't really remember my weeks anymore because like there's nothing stand out that happened.
Ouch. Okay.
But yeah, maybe that does inform on the movie when you think about it. You were gonna say something.
Kind of. So like, okay. So okay. Actually, no question. So how much time do you actually spend in like the different segments of the things that you do? Like how much like time? I don't actually know how much time you spend on like teaching or like working on the podcast or working on like the art that you and Jonathan have been doing. Like how do you actually segment your weeks then? Especially like if you have a routine now, like what is like, do you have like a... So
it's more so divvied by the day. So when I have, on Mondays, I have a few students, and then I think I had to actually think about my schedule now. But on blending. Wednesdays, I don't have any students anymore on Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, I still have students. And so, but because most of these students, either I've scheduled or my director has scheduled to be kind of blocked in the same time period, what that does is it squashes my schedule with teaching into about 2 to 3 to 4 hours per day. And then around that, I get to do my other stuff. And so when I'm writing on my blog or when I'm doing music stuff, when I'm doing stuff for the podcast or working on the project with Jonathan, I kind of piecemeal it out around those times so that I'm kind of working on that. And then, of course, at night, it's just Sharon and me kind of enjoying our night together so that we're a lot more chill like during dinner and after. And so
they're so cute, you guys. You don't understand how flippin' cute they are. Anyway.
I don't think I'm that cute. I think Cher's very cute, but
okay, Isaac is cute because of his sass and the fact that he is unaware of the fact that he's cute. That's how that works for them.
That sounds really strange. But so family time in a sense is kind of that nighttime every day. But then I've scheduled other things around that, and so yeah. So it's been so on Fridays. This is when we work on our podcast and everything, and we work on other stuff or our own really projects. Like if we don't have anything else to work on. And so that's been now set in stone. It's like I think of that as part of the work schedule, if that makes sense.
Nope, that's part of my work schedule. Right. Like just because I don't get paid for this yet does not mean that I don't consider this like.
That was Rosemary reaching out to ask for money.
Emphasis on yet. Anyway, but it's something where I do actually count this as like a third job. This is like I am a writer. I'm not published yet, and it's something where I'm working to make sure that changes. But it's something where even though there's no money involved, this is what I want to be doing. This is what I love, and this is what inspires me to keep going forward in my life. I keep finding different issues that are causing stories to be created, and I'm like, oh, I should probably work on this. And then I move forward, and my stories get better, and healing and growth take place along with actual finished works. So it's
and then
nice.
You watch movies, and you like them despite them not being any good.
The really sad part is that is actually a quite normal part of my life of just like, oh, movie going. This is visually entertaining, fun. And then afterwards, I'm like, actually, I'm kind of cool with never watching that again. Most likely, I think. It's interesting. Anyway, but okay.
Yeah, so I guess we can segue now into the actual movie. Just to give a kind of summary or a kind of, I guess, background for listeners who are just jumping in on this second episode. If you haven't listened to our first episode, right now we're going through a phase where we're going through our top 10 movies of all time, Rosemary's top 10 and my top 10 as well. And this, obviously, as you can tell from my tone and my lack of enthusiasm, I don't like this movie. This is definitely not on my top 10, but it's on Rosemary's
mine.
top 10. Do you want to talk about how it became a movie on your top 10?
So two things, just so that way you can kind of trust that I'm not completely insane.
She is completely insane, yes.
But I'm an entertaining kind of insane, so it works. Like I don't know, maybe like a true chaotic neutral, or like I flip between like chaotic neutral and like true neutral. It just flips. It's just it depends. Anyway, so
I was just not entertained while watching this movie. I don't.
I know. Okay, so but for sanity purposes, one. Every couple of years, over the last 6 years, so I've actually done this 3 times. Every couple of years, I go through and I redo my top 10 movies. When Isaac suggested the idea of this is what we use on our podcast is to talk about our top 10 movies, I was like, you know what? It's actually about time for me to revamp my top 10. However, because of Isaac's very, very demanding standards, I felt like I needed to actually have more demanding standards of my own rather than just nostalgia and I genuinely enjoy this movie and could watch it a million times. Like I wanted it to have slightly more to it than that. So I actually had several movies that were on my top 10 several times in a row. Even like growing up, I'm like, this is one of my favorite movies. Even though I didn't have a top 10, I was like, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. And so some of those movies actually came off and some other movies came on that I was like, oh yeah, those are really brilliant movies. And so Palm Springs kind of ended up on here because while I was creating my top 10, I didn't have a number 10. And so for a few weeks, I was just stuck and I'm like, no movie's good enough for this. Why is no movie good enough for this? I don't understand. And so when I watched this movie and I had such a profound sense of just enjoyment throughout the entire movie. Like I genuinely adored every inch of this movie. Afterwards, analyzing it with Isaac and analyzing it by myself, I was like, okay, this might not be one of the greatest movies of all time, but I wanted to figure out why I enjoyed it so much. So over the last week, I have poured myself into, well, like kind of, I have other jobs and things, but in the time that I had left over from that, I poured myself into figuring out why I like this movie so much. So
this is still number 10 for you?
This is still number 10 for the moment, because I have, again, when I go through and do my top 10 again, I'll figure it out, but for the purpose of the podcast, for the purpose of everything else, for the next few months, this is going to be my top 10, and I will figure out my life, and I really do enjoy the movie. So yes, it shouldn't be on my top 10, but for the moment, I'm cool with...
Well, should is a relative term, right? At least in this,
it is.
In this case.
It is a very subjective term. So anyway, what I found out is the main 3 reasons why I like this movie.
Well, let's summarize the movie a little bit first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So main summary of the movie, basically you have 2 protagonists who are caught in a time loop. I
forgot their names. It's Andy Samberg and Christina Milioti, but I don't remember their actual names in the movie. You don't remember their names either?
We're already off to a start. Oh, well, okay.
I know Andy Samberg's name starts with an N, but I don't remember what it actually is.
No.
Oh, man. Wow.
Google to the rescue.
This is one of Rosemary's top 10 movies of all time.
First of all, I've watched it twice, and it's delightful.
She is searching through her phone right now. Well, just because they're not going to be able to hear you because your mouth is not on the mic right now.
Niles.
No, Niles.
Niles,
Okay.
which actually makes sense because he's so
So
nihilistic.
that's Andy Samberg's character.
But like you missed the joke because he's nihilistic, so he's Niles.
That's not really a good joke.
I think it's beautiful. Okay. Anyway, but it's Niles and Sarah, and they're the main two.
Sarah, that's right.
There are actually a couple of other people who are trapped in the time loop with them, which is kind of fun. They only really make it obvious that one of the guys is super definitely stuck in there because he's basically harassing Niles the entire time and kind of just repeatedly killing him and torturing him because he's mad that he's stuck in the time loop, and that's how he's dealing with his anger and aggression. Not well. But there's actually a hint at the very, very end of the movie that one of the grandma...
Wait, did we summarize it yet?
Okay, sorry. Two main protagonists are trapped in Palm Springs in an infinite time loop at Sarah's sister's wedding. And basically, Niles has been trapped in this thing for we have no idea how long, and he has no idea how long. And she's been trapped in this.
Oh, we should
roughly...
say spoilers, obviously, because we're going to
spoilers.
be analyzing these movies.
Yeah, these are our top 10 movies. We're going to be talking in depth and very.
Right.
Even though I don't remember the
I'm
names
gonna
of
have
this
to give
one, they will be pretty in depth and have a lot of detail, and we will totally geek and nerd out about so many of them.
Just not this one.
Maybe just not this one.
But
I do enjoy a lot of the things about this movie. So basically, Niles and Sarah trapped in the time loop. They're honestly, at this point, they've done the whole, they basically do like a little tiny little suicide loop of like, all right, let's just try killing ourselves and see if we can get out of it. Sarah attempts to be good for a day and it doesn't work. She tries to do something selfless, but it's not actually that selfless. It's just not horrible. It's just admitting fault. And but then they go and have a nihilistic relationship of just friendship for the next for act 2 of the movie, basically. And as they're going through this, they're getting closer and closer and closer, and then one of the things that happens is they get close enough where they both basically they have sex, and it's something where because of how close they've gotten, when they both wake up the next morning, they both had a really good morning, and Sarah ends up staying in the room that she's been trapped in for basically all of this eternity. They've been stuck there, and she ends up actually having her sister's groom to be tell her that she needs to leave his room, and she remembers that's why she's like stuck here. That's why she wakes up in this room every morning, is that she slept with her sister's boyfriend, fiance, soon to be husband. And so she basically is like, I can't stay here forever. I cannot live my life like this. And so she basically goes and learns quantum physics and decides she wants to get out. And she abandons Niles while she's studying quantum physics. And so he goes through a very like codependent withdrawal of the one person who made my life anything close to like fun or enjoyable is now gone, and he's trapped in the time loop again, and he loses a sense of himself and of time, and things just start blending together. And then they come back together when she learns that if they blow themselves up in the magical cave where the whole time loop thing started, that if they do it in the right amount of time, that theoretically they will get pushed outside of the time loop. And happy ending happens. They do get pushed out. They do get to continue their lives together. And it's something where it's just that's the summary of the movie. So boy trapped in time loop, boy accidentally starts to die, girl tries to save him, gets stuck in time loop with him, they have fun, they both then get depressed after different things happen, and then they find a way to escape. So
pretty simple
time loop movie.
Outside of the time loop idea, simple kind of rom-com.
Exactly. It's just a delightful little bit of fluff. Yeah. But so the reasons why I genuinely enjoyed this movie are, one, Andy Samberg is a codependent person, and I relate
he does those
a little
characters
too
quite well.
Hardcore. And so that was just really, really enjoyable and really true to codependent characters. And so I was just very proud of that. And it also makes sense because
I think that's actually his not typecast, but something that
it's something he does really well, and he has cast a lot for those characters.
Yeah.
So, but okay. So with what's going on with the quarantine, with the virus, and everything that's frustrating about the world right now, a lot of us have what Isaac is comfortable with now, because he had a lot of hecticness in his life, a lot of chaos because of what's going on. A lot of us had a lot of mundane routine and monotony, just being trapped in this like eternal day where nothing actually changes.
Yeah. I never actually had much chaos. I was really happy when the shutdown happened, mostly because I'm a pretty pretty big introvert. And so I really enjoyed not being forced to see people in order to earn money in person. I didn't mind it online, but when it's in person, it's a little bit not so fun, especially when those students just don't practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't really. It wasn't chaotic for me. It was actually quite peaceful, or relatively peaceful, the transition.
Okay.
But I can see where you get the
again,
chaotic
most people. Some people have enjoyed it, and I know this might come as a surprise, but I am an omnivert, so it's something where I normally prefer recharging by myself.
I think it's ambivert.
Is it ambivert? Omnivert? I don't remember.
Omnivert. Omni is like overall, like you have power over all. I don't know if that's the correct
You know what,
term.
Isaac? I just might.
You have power over all verts.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, but basically, it's something where I for the most part growing up, I was more of an introvert. I'm a very outgoing and bubbly introvert because I don't like awkward silences and I don't like being uncomfortable, and I hate it when other people are uncomfortable. Like, that's worse than me being uncomfortable. And so it's something where I would often recharge by myself, because by myself I don't have to worry about figuring out what other people need and how I can give that to them. Like, that's something that's always been there for me, and I enjoy that I'm good at it, but it's also something where I usually recharge by myself. But over the last few years, I've worked really hard on kind of developing an extrovert and introvert side of myself, so I can also recharge with people. It's just very heavily dependent on the people. Anyway, back to the movie. I was talking about codependency for a reason. Anyway, with the monotony of life that has been going on, especially for me, I've been working anywhere from 40 to 70 hours, 75 hours a week, depending on where in the quarantine we were, because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. So I'm like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself and I'm taking care of my finances. But my schedule became very, very, very routine, and I only had bits and pieces of time for myself, where most of it I would nap and sleep and recuperate from work. And so it's something where with this movie, because that's basically Andy Samberg's character, is to show you that when you're stuck in this loop, you're trapped in this loop, and it's just you and everyone else is just doing the same things, and you're doing the same things, and there's no way to get out of it. It feels endless. It feels infinite in a very unpleasant way. Like, human beings love the concept of immortality, but if we actually had to live the same day over and over and over again with no chance of ever escaping it, most of us would lose our minds. But the reason I like this movie is because of the fact that it introduces a second protagonist who's also stuck in the time loop. Though, I just recently learned, and I do want to watch this movie, there's a movie called Russian Doll that also does this. I haven't seen it, though, so we'll see what happens. But with this one, there are two people who are close to each other, who are just trapped in the same time loop, so you have a partner to struggle through with. And as someone who is probably more than mildly codependent myself, it was something where I completely understand and appreciate, because at one point when she's saying, hey, I found a way out, let's go blow ourselves up and find a way to get out of this, he's like, well, actually, this is comfortable. Why can't we just both stay here together? If you're here with me, we can have fun. We never have to worry about dying or getting older or wrinkles or children, or we don't have to worry about any of this. And he's terrified of moving forward. And so it's something where I push myself, and I usually try to surround myself with people who will also push me forward, because I am terrified of being allowed the option of standing still, because I know that I might choose that. And so I liked how relatable his character was, in the fact that he's very, very codependent, and he actually wants to stay in the time loop, because as long as she's there with him, he can survive day to day. But she doesn't want to keep waking up in her sister's fiance's room. So she's like, I need to get out. Anyway, thing number 2, and this is just all time loop movies in general.
I think with the time loop, it was interesting when how I kind of started watching the movie was because Cher and I generally watch movies together at during our evening time, so when we're either eating dinner or after dinner or something like that. And so because this was a rom-com, I figured, okay, let's watch this together instead of me having to watch it by myself, and probably not really.
I don't think you would have finished
Not
it.
really. I don't think I have any rom-coms in my top 10.
Nope. None of the ones in your top 10 are based around romance. They have
No,
aspects of
that's-
romance in them, but none of them are actually, it's not a main point in any of them.
Right. No, I would say one of them does have romance as one of the features, but
I can literally also only think of one.
But it's not meant to be it's not focused on the romance. It's not
and
it's not a comedy, and so I figured I would rather watch it with somebody. And so, but before I did that, I wanted to make sure it's something that Cher would be okay with watching. And so I looked up the trailer and I watched the trailer, and in the trailer they talk about the time loop, right? Which I would have thought you would have kept that as a twist, but I guess the trailer didn't do that. And so I was walking into this movie thinking, okay, they're going to do this time loop thing, and it's going to be part of the whole plot. And I actually didn't really. So because the surprise, I think because of the surprise of the time loop was no longer there, there was nothing in the movie that kind of grabbed me.
That makes sense.
And with. Yeah, there's nothing in the movie grabbed me. But the thing about Andy Samberg and Christine Milotti. Sarah. So Niles and Sarah. I had to remember that. The only person I really remember is J.K. Simmons' character, because I really love J.K. Simmons. He's such a good actor.
That was really.
And actually, that's probably the only thing that I liked about the movie. At the end, when J.K. Simmons also gets out, supposedly gets the idea of getting out because of Christine Milotti. What was it?
Everyone has an Irvine.
Everyone has an Irvine, right?
Yeah. I thought that was hilarious, and it's just like we live in California, so we know where Irvine is, and we're like, really, Irvine?
Well, Irvine is actually quite nice, right? It's the idea of
special, but like what he meant was that was
his
cool.
family was there and everything like that. So I feel like his whole arc was he actually made peace with being there, right? Whereas Andy Samberg and Christine Milotti, I'm going to continue to refer to them like
fine.
this.
That's cool.
I'm sorry. Niles and Sarah are just, Andy Samberg has given up, whereas Sarah is still trying to get out, right? And I thought it was really interesting the idea that in Andy Samberg's character, he wanted to be with somebody, right? It didn't actually matter who it was, because the first person he was with was J.K. Simmons, right? And so he wanted someone to be in this thing with him so badly that he didn't think. I mean, he was drunk, but he didn't think about what the consequences were.
He was also extremely high. He wasn't just drunk. There were so many drugs. There were so many drugs.
And so, in all of that, right, he led J.K. Simmons' character into the whole thing because he wanted a companion, because he wanted a friend, right?
And he'd already been in there for a long time too. Like the movie sets up really well that like we have no idea how long he's been there for. I don't even think they say what year the wedding was supposed to be taking place.
Well, technically, like I think the idea is that he's been in here the equivalent of like thousands of years, right? That was the idea, and so he's actually quite old in this whole thing. At least that was the impression that I got when he was talking about I've been through this like thousands of times, and when he talked about when he admitted to Christine Milotti that they slept together thousands of times and everything like that. Yeah.
I feel like. So one of the things that I did while I was researching this was I was looking up different videos, and one of the videos that I listened to was talking about how I want to say it was a BBC reporter, but she was kidnapped by some bad people from Palestine. I don't remember exactly what it was, but basically she was kidnapped and she was held for like 4 months. And even though like they prayed like 5 times a day and did like very specific things, it was something where she still lost track of time. She didn't know how many days. So like she knew vaguely like what kind of day it was and what time of day it was, but she wasn't able to keep track. And so afterwards, when she got out, she was just there was an infinity of days. There was no way to get out of it. And so it was this really kind of horrifying thing. And
what's interesting about this whole thing was I started to think during the movie, because I was kind of not engaged in the movie.
No, he didn't enjoy it at all.
So I started to think what would be things that I would do to kind of keep track of time, right? And I would go, okay, right, what if, because everything restarts in the time loop. And so I started, thinking, what if, I would, before going to sleep, I would try to remember my best. Okay, this is time number 29. Right, and then the next day when I wake up, I would realize this is time number 30. Right, so I would write 30 down on like a piece of paper or something like that, keep it with me, and then when the night is about to end, I would put 30. Right, try to remember that, and then so the next time loop would be 31. Right, and so this is where my mind goes when I'm thinking about this kind of stuff, and I think that was the interesting thing that to me about this movie was not really interesting, but just his character wanted someone in the time loop. And I actually thought this was where the movie was going. Instead of getting out of the time loop, they would also make peace with being inside it.
I thought so too.
Right?
Actually, I was a little excited, and then they didn't do that. Like,
Right.
I love the quantum physics thing. I thought that was fantastic, but I did also think they were going to stay.
Yeah,
and then they
because
didn't.
if you think about it, the kind of the mess, at least the message I was getting out of the movie was it's not about the events. It's not the events that matter in life. It's the people that matter in life, right? And so, what if you have this time loop where they learn to make peace with being in the time loop? They just can't get out.
Well, there is
and
a
then
character
they just
that does
keep
that.
bringing people into the time loop.
So, well, one of my favorite things was at the end, the grandma makes a comment like, "This is like I've been to what was it, like thousands of weddings."
Mm-hmm.
Or she might have said hundreds, but she makes this comment, and it leaves you with that. Wait, is she choosing? And the cool thing is, for her, she's on the old side.
Right.
If she were to escape the time loop, you don't know how long she might only have one day more. But because she's trapped in the time loop, she's able to continue to live and continue to watch her granddaughter get married and have wine and talk to people and dance and have fun and enjoy her
there's
life.
Actually there is so much to the time loop idea of like a preservation of almost utopia like I guess in a sense, utopian. There you go. Although idea. I guess that's not the real definition for it, but it is kind of it can become like a perfect ideal world, right, in a sense, because you don't age, things reset every time, but then yet your consciousness keeps going, and so you can still learn, right, and all these kinds of things. And so, I mean, obviously there's really bad and evil things that you can do with that as well, but I thought that was what the whole movie was going to go towards. They went a different route, which I'm not, because I already didn't really like the movie. I didn't think like, oh, this made it worse or anything like that. No. But I thought that was interesting, like the idea of, despite events that happen around us, and despite the repetition or cycles that we go through in life, it's the people that you're with that make it meaningful, right? And that's kind of what I thought the movie was trying to go to. But the ending kind of defeats all that, and so that's okay.
Well, okay, so, and it was also one of the things where, like, growing up, that was actually one of my, like, favorite superpower ideas was...
You want to put everybody in a time loop?
No, I wanted to be able to have the power of creating time loops, but it would be just mine. So yes, I could create multiple at a time. Like, yes, I could like trap people in the time loops, but the purpose of it would be like, so okay, again, I am a nerd, and I enjoy being a nerd, and so I like getting sucked into books and things, and it's something where. Like the idea as a kid of being able to like, hey, I had a really good day today. Let me like trap myself in this 24-hour period of just loveliness where I can read whatever I want to and I can go wherever I want to, provided I can get to that in 24 hours. And within 24 hours, it resets and resets. And then when I want to get out of it, I can. But to be able to have that ability was always something that I really, really enjoyed. That was actually one of the things Isaac first trashed me about, was that developed into I wanted the ability to just stop time and then be able to move around in said stop time.
But that doesn't really work.
He was talking about the physics and how
light actually
light
travels.
Works. And
you wouldn't be able to see unless you're moving forward all the time, and you just hit a wall.
Anyway.
Yeah, that was something that I think when I was in high school, I talked about with my friends, and one of my friends said, I want to be able to stop time. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool power. And I thought about it, and I was like, no, that's terrible. When I watched this movie, I was like, oh yeah, this is a thing that I liked as a kid. Like, that's where that power came out of, was the like want to be stuck in a time loop, but to have control over the time loop. So like there's that. But one of the other things, so okay, I'm very hit or miss with like Groundhog Day plot lines, which all time loop movies since Groundhog Day have been based on Groundhog Day. There's like, I actually haven't seen Groundhog Day. So,
really?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I feel like I saw bits and pieces as a kid, and so I never actually watched the whole thing. And then I was like, no, I'm watching it. So then I watched it all the way through. And
it's just like, it's that people are stuck in this.
So it's just
loop.
one person.
Okay.
It's just, oh no, dear God, what is his name?
No, it's okay. We're not discussing that movie.
No, well, I kind of am a little bit, because the idea is you only have one guy and he's stuck there, and we don't know how long he's stuck there for, but the idea is that he has to get through the entire day and do it right. And be a
so
decent
that's
person.
where the whole Christine Milioti, like, if I
Like
make
the
moral
good thing.
choices.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's from the Groundhog Day movie, and so it's something where that has defined the time loop movies. That's one of the
See,
reasons.
I didn't know that, and so
Yeah.
when she said that, I was
You're like,
that
why?
didn't
That, like,
land
doesn't.
at all for
Oh,
me.
okay, that's because you haven't watched Groundhog
Yeah.
Day. See, this is why you don't like this movie, because you haven't watched the foundational things that were like making this movie. Okay,
I
fine.
don't
Anyway,
think if I watched Groundhog Day, I would
I
like
think you'd
this
be able
movie
to
any better.
appreciate it a little bit more.
Well, I got the moral idea, right? Like
Uh,
karma and all this kind of stuff.
But with Groundhog Day, I wasn't overly fond of that, but I loved the concept, and so something where my two. So okay, Isaac's time loop movie of choice is Edge of Tomorrow, and my time loop movie of choice, which I don't know why I didn't pick that one instead of this one, but I also really liked this one, is Happy Death Day, where the idea is that there's actually like a serial killer who's trying to kill her, and then like if she actually manages to live through the end of the day, then she gets to live through the end of the day, but that doesn't really happen, and so usually this killer keeps killing her, and she needs to figure out who the killer is in order to actually stop the time loop, and it's really well done. Anyway. But yeah.
Just to clarify, I don't have a time loop movie that I really like.
No.
It's just that when we were talking about it and you asked, well, what other time loop movies are better? I thought, well, Edge of Tomorrow,
which is also a good movie,
would be much better. Although that's not really based on Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it is. It's a video game take on Groundhog Day, video game idea take of Groundhog Day.
But he's not trying to be moral. No,
but he does have to make the right decisions in order to be able to survive the day.
Yeah, but that it's not moral.
Yeah.
It's not being.
But
it's not making like moral choices.
Some people would say that making the right decision is making the moral decision. So the idea is that it's a similar concept, and so.
But the right decision was killing or avoiding death.
Yeah.
Like there's no. He didn't have really a moral journey in that whole movie.
No, but again.
His whole thing was I want Emily Blunt. I mean, I don't know if that's a moral thing to.
I feel like that's a very honest thing, though. I feel like a lot of people in that situation would be like,
at the end of the
super
whole
hot
thing,
lady. Okay, I'll get out of this for you. Like,
what's interesting is at the end. Well, what I liked about Edge of Tomorrow, in a way, obviously that the whole movie was, I think, done really well. But at the end of it, the ending is quite ambiguous.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what she doesn't know, right? Because she was the angel of Verdun, right?
Something like that.
And she hadn't lost her power at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the timeline at the end of the movie,
I believe so.
So it was very ambiguous, which was very interesting. It spawned a lot of theories, and I'm sure like fan geek fiction or whatever about it. So I thought that was really interesting. But anyways, I think the concept behind Edge of Tomorrow is of the time loop concept behind Edge of Tomorrow was done much better. And so that's why when you asked me that, I said that.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, you're also not someone who like genuinely enjoys rom-coms. I genuinely enjoy
rom-coms.
Yeah, but
my favorite rom-com would probably be Hitch.
That's such a good one, though.
But
that's
Will Smith is just
movie.
a very good actor. So is Kevin James, and so they.
Was Celine
movie.
Dion and
I don't know.
No, I know her name. I'm so sad that I can't remember her name. She's in so many things. She's in a dancing movie.
I really don't know.
Doesn't matter, I guess.
The actors.
Yeah.
But except like Will Smith and Kevin James, they were just very funny.
So delightful.
But I think most people actually rate something like Hitch as a low, like not A+ or graded rom-com or whatever. It's like a B movie. But I actually really enjoyed that.
No, that's like one of my favorite rom-coms.
Oh.
So I do actually genuinely
appreciate why wasn't that on your top 10 list?
Because I didn't think that it defined it. It didn't define rom-coms enough for me to put it on there. Again, Palm Springs is a space holder at the moment, okay? Or a placeholder, not a space holder. A placeholder at the moment, okay? I genuinely enjoyed it because I feel like my life is boring and monotonous and I have no time and no way to escape. Okay?
So
Very simple.
That was the relational point for Palm Springs.
Anyway, but yeah, so basically it was just I thought it was a well done movie, especially for time loops, because one of the things that they mentioned in there is like time loop movies are kind of overdone. And so there's only so many things you can do to a time loop movie. And so the couple of things that they did, I thought they were good. I enjoyed the movie. At some point in the future, I will probably watch it again because I really did like it. I have talked about it with several of my friends because I liked it so much.
And your friends liked it as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it just for them it wasn't a spectacular movie either. It was just like, oh yeah, this is a solid movie.
But
like,
none of them were as
no.
negative as I am.
Okay,
the movie.
you are my only like legitimately
I don't hate the
analytical
movie, by the way.
friend.
I don't hate the movie. I don't
But
see
you
why
have
it's
very
all that,
different standards than most people, and definitely than me. I
Yeah.
am the fluffy romantic who absolutely can appreciate. Like I read Twilight and actually kind of.
Oh, you're
enjoyed
outing
it.
yourself right now.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay. Now that doesn't mean I think.
Wow,
that they're
I didn't
good.
think we would do that this early
Wait,
in the podcast.
that doesn't mean I think that they're like genuinely well written or that they're like great works of literature. I really don't think they are, but I did actually enjoy them, and I appreciated the concept that she was trying to get across. I just don't think that she fine-tuned it well enough to actually get it into something that was worthy of publishing just yet. And so it's something where
I mean, apparently it was because it sold millions and millions and millions of copies, right?
But again, because the concepts were so good and because it's something that's really easy to attach to, and the whole point is that Bella's character was created as like a self-insert. She's not supposed to really have a really strong character because most of the, especially the female readers, are wanting to put themselves in her shoes. And so
she would be a female version of Harry Potter.
Yes.
In a sense.
Basically, that's one of the reasons why so many people fell in love with it, is that's the whole point, is you're supposed to want to be her.
So you're wanting some creepy guy to stare at you
First of
over
all,
the window
there are several
and stalk
guys.
you. Oh,
Second of all,
several guys
there's only like
to
two.
come over
But
and
there's
stalk
two
you.
lame ones and then two like decent ones.
You're telling me that's a female desire, like innate female desire.
Not stalking. It's more like.
But he was clearly.
He really was stalking. He really was. But okay. I do not.
You don't have to justify Twilight.
Okay, no, we don't even need to talk about Twilight. I was just saying that I'm one of those people who like I enjoy fluff in fiction, and I enjoy the ability to like turn off the little analyzing side of my brain and just enjoy something without like figuring out why I like it or what's up with it. And so it's something where I can definitely do that, but I can also turn that off. And
so
anyway.
with Palm Springs, we were also talking about this a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about how concepts in it are also similar to things that you're working on, or how it influenced the way what kind of projects you're working on.
Yeah. So the main tie-in that I wanted to do is also something that Isaac and I mentioned on the last one, is I've been working on my poetry book, which if you go through my Instagram, you'll see different pieces of it here and there. And I finished my editing. I'm waiting for editing from somebody else, and then I need one more go through, and then I'm actually going to start like trying to talk to publishers about it. So that should be fun. But one of the things, and it's a little bit darker than Palm Springs, though Palm Springs does have certain dark points. It's something where even though there isn't a time loop in the poetry book, the way that the story goes is that there is a lot of spiraling. And part of the thing with the story that I liked as I was doing it is that there are points in it that show you that time is passing, time has passed, that she's moving forward. But it's also something where
this is in your story.
in my actual like in the poetry book, because it's supposed to be like, yes, it's poetry, but it's also it's a story with a plot line. And so part of the plot is the idea that after the first incident occurs, she basically goes through and starts spiraling, and then she can't tell days apart. Like she's like nothing, like everything is dark and depressed and sad, and she can't figure out how to get out of this. And then she like meets someone, and it's so weird. And yes, this is a little stereotypical of like the girl meets boy changes her life, but it's not, because he's doing it on purpose.
Changes her life. Oh, in your
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was thinking Palm Springs still.
No,
I'm stuck in the time loop of Palm Springs.
Yes, this works. But yeah, and so it's something where it's just that he's so not what she's used to. He's something new. He's something outside of the spiral, something outside of this horrible rut that she's stuck in. And so it's something where I actually I liked that connection between the like Palm Springs and like the time loop, because as far as I know, time loops are not a thing. That's not a thing that we have here
You don't know
in
that.
reality.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just based on the evidence that I have so far.
You know,
I
your
don't.
friend, whatever, is stuck in a time loop
That'd be
somehow.
hilarious.
And you don't know it because you're not in the time loop.
That's true.
Right?
Again, I have never been trapped in a time loop. I don't know anyone who's been trapped in a time loop that has told me. So I just personally, at the moment, don't think that they exist. They could, but I don't think so. And so it's something where, in reality, though, it is definitely possible to feel trapped in your life and feel like
Right.
nothing is moving forward and you're stuck. It's very, very common for people to go through that, especially right now. And so to have that ability to escape, to have that option, to have that new thing, that new bright thing that just gives you a light out of the tunnel, whether it is a train or the sunlight, it's still a light at the end of the tunnel.
Or a bomb in a cave.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Anyway, but yeah, and so it's something where that was one of the things that I really liked, that I was like, oh yeah, that is kind of in there, is the option of escape, the idea of having the end is near, the end is in sight, like how do we do this? And so I just thought I liked it. I do actually genuinely like my poetry books.
Right, and so we talked about this before. This was your number 10 movie on your top 10 list. And so that we've marked that one off. It's not on, of course, as you guys know, or if you've been listening, this is not on any of my top anything list. But I think that was the thing that was really interesting to me. I didn't feel anything about this movie. Yeah. It wasn't so bad that I could put it on like top 10 of worst movies, but it wasn't like so
it's anywhere near anything you'll ever try to watch again on purpose.
Right. I think I told you when after Cher and I watched it, I asked her, I was like, how'd you think of the movie? She was like, I think it was okay. I thought that was a very brief response. So I asked, well, would you watch this movie again? And she's like, no, I'm never going to watch this again.
Nah.
And I thought, okay, all right, marry the right person. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So now we're moving on to our Dime segment.
Woo!
Where what do we do? Oh, right. We're talking about a quote or a joke of the day or week, I guess. Yeah. So, Rosemary, what have you prepared for us?
So, again, with the theme of monotonous living and the delightful potential for escape, I'm actually doing my favorite quote of all time, which I really like. Since I first watched this movie, this has been my favorite quote of all time, and nothing else has ever superseded it. But it's from Lord of the Rings. And it's the one that's always stuck in my head is when they're actually like in the movie in the cave. So I'm going to read the book exact quote, and it's what they have in the movie. But it's something where in the movie I just always have that scene in my head where they're in the caves and they're choosing what tunnel to go through. And basically the way it goes, so it's Frodo is saying, I wish it need not have happened in my time. And Gandalf replies, so do I, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. And that is my favorite quote of all time. And every time that I say it out loud or I think it, it always gives me a sense of hope and a sense of control that, like, I have complete freedom, complete free will to do whatever it is that I want to do with my life. And yeah, there are limitations. Yes, there are consequences. But I still have the power and the ability to choose whatever is within my imagination to bring to life. And so that is one of the things with time loop movies, is that you have this life that you're stuck in, and through a series of choices and events that you put into motion yourself, because the world is not going to put them in motion for you. The world is already set up that this is the life that you're going to lead. And so to choose that for yourself has always been inspirational. So
all we have to do is
decide what to do with the time that is given us.
Decide what to do with the time that is given us. And with that, let's go to our... Before I forget, let's go to drawing the hat for our next movie. Woo-hoo! I did it that last time, so Rosemary, you want to do the honors?
Yes,
so she is
moving things,
shaking
I'm doing both.
Mixing it up.
Moving things. All right, okay. So
we can actually hear it pretty well in the microphone. Good. So did you just drop one?
I might have. Okay, so the one that I picked is The Matrix.
The Matrix. Whoa.
What?
Okay, that works.
Super solid one. So
that works really well.
That does, actually. So. We go from the monotony of life to like, wait, no, everything is false. It works. So,
yeah.
Anyway. But yeah. So, next week we will be talking about The Matrix, which I hope you guys are all excited about. And we will reveal numbers and whose it is and whatnot, whose it's and what's it's next week. And yeah.
And with that, we're going to be done with our second podcast ever, or second episode ever. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Isaac.
And I'm Rosemary.
And this is us signing off.